When a woman knows she's lost you, her warmth turns cold, silence replaces words, and regret quietly shadows her actions. She may act indifferent, yet deep inside she feels the weight of your absence. In losing you, she finally understands your value, but by then, it's too late. In the beginning, her attention was like sunlight. She noticed the smallest things about you, the way you spoke, how you carried yourself, even the tone of your laughter. Every message from you mattered. Every call brought excitement, and every little moment seemed to carry weight. But when she feels she has lost you, when she realizes your focus is no longer on her, that once intense attention shifts into something colder, indifference. It is not an overnight change, but rather a slow and steady withdrawal. At first, you notice her replies take longer, her eyes no longer search for you in a room, and her interest in your daily life begins to fade. She may still be physically present, but mentally, she is already somewhere else. This shift is powerful because it reveals how deeply connection affects behavior. When she feels secure, her attention is constant and natural. But when she senses that her place in your world is slipping, she adjusts by detaching. Instead of pouring her energy into you, she begins to redirect it toward herself or other distractions. The warmth you were once used to becomes rare, almost as though she is conserving her emotions. Indifference replaces curiosity, and distance takes the place of closeness. You can feel it not just in her actions, but in her silence. The absence of concern where once there was care. It is a defense mechanism as much as it is a sign of change. Women, when they feel they are losing someone, often mask the pain by pulling back. They would rather appear indifferent than vulnerable. It is easier to act like you no longer matter than to openly admit the hurt. But behind that indifference is often a storm of unspoken emotions. She notices more than she shows. She still feels, but she refuses to let it be visible. And in that silence, you sense the depth of what's shifting. The transition from attention to indifference is not about a lack of feelings, but about control. By turning away, she tries to regain power over herself. By not giving you attention, she creates space where she can process the reality of losing you. The same woman who once celebrated your victories, cared about your struggles, and listened to your every word now sits in silence, detached, as if to say, you no longer have access to my world. This change may feel cold, even cruel, but it is also her way of reclaiming dignity. What makes this shift so striking is the contrast. You don't just lose her attention, you feel the weight of its absence. The energy she once gave so freely is now withdrawn, and you are left with the echo of what it used to mean. That is the real power of indifference. It makes you realize how much her attention once defined the relationship and how its absence changes everything. When a woman knows she's lost you, she often doesn't react with loud arguments or emotional outbursts. Instead, she becomes quiet, almost invisible, and begins to watch you from a distance. This silence is not emptiness, it's observation. She studies your movements, your choices, and your new direction in life, not to control you anymore, but to understand what has changed between you. Silent observation is her way of processing the reality she once denied. She doesn't need to ask questions because your behavior answers them for her. The way you no longer chase, the way you no longer explain, the way your energy no longer seeks her, it all speaks louder than words. This phase is subtle but powerful. She may not call or message, yet she checks if you are online. She may not directly ask about you, yet she listens carefully when someone else mentions your name. Even if she pretends not to care, she notices how you carry yourself now, stronger, more distant, and detached. Women have an instinct for reading between the lines, and when she's silent, she's picking up details you don't even realize you're showing. The silence in this way is not weakness, but awareness. It allows her to gather information without exposing her vulnerability. There is also pride in this silence. She won't ask where you've been or who you're with, because admitting curiosity would mean admitting that losing you matters. So she watches quietly, hoping to find signs that you still think of her. Every gesture you make becomes a message, every action a clue. If you seem happy, she wonders if she was ever needed. If you seem unbothered, she questions if you ever truly cared. Her silent observation is a mirror, reflecting both her regret and her longing back at her. In many ways, silence becomes louder than confrontation. It carries tension without words, a kind of invisible presence that lingers. When she's watching without speaking, it unsettles you because you know she still sees you, but you no longer know what she feels. That mystery creates its own weight. For her, it is both a shield and a reminder. She hides behind observation to protect her heart, yet the very act of observing reminds her of what she has lost. This quiet monitoring also shows how deeply the bond mattered to her. If it meant nothing, she wouldn't notice at all. But when she pays attention silently, it means you still live in her thoughts, even if she refuses to show it. Silent observation is the stage where her ego battles her emotions. She doesn't want to reach out, yet she can't fully let go either. It is her way of staying connected without admitting attachment. And in that silence, both of you understand something unspoken. Losing you has changed her. And though she may never say it aloud, she feels the absence every time she watches you without a word. Emotional withdrawal is one of the clearest signs that a woman knows she has lost you. It doesn't always show through anger or visible conflict. It happens quietly, like a fading light. At first, you notice small changes. She no longer asks how your day went. She doesn't lean in during conversations, and her laughter feels forced rather than natural. Where she once invested her emotions freely, now there is a careful restraint, almost as if she is guarding her heart from further pain. It is not that she suddenly stops feeling, it's that she chooses to stop showing. This withdrawal is her protection. Women often express love through emotional intimacy, by caring, by listening, and by sharing their inner world. But when she feels she has lost her place in your life, those gestures begin to disappear. She won't give you the same access to her feelings anymore, because opening up would mean risking rejection or disappointment again. So she builds emotional walls. The same woman who once made you her safe place now creates distance, not to hurt you, but to preserve herself. The silence between you starts to grow heavier. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel dry and empty. You sense her presence physically, but emotionally, she's no longer with you. It's as if her heart has already taken a step back while her body lingers in the room. This withdrawal is powerful because it creates a void you can feel deeply. You don't just lose her words, you lose her energy, her warmth, her emotional investment, and that absence speaks louder than any argument could. What makes emotional withdrawal so impactful is the way it shifts the balance of the relationship. You may still try to connect, but her responses lack depth. You may still seek comfort, but she no longer offers it the way she once did. The love, concern, and reassurance you relied on begin to vanish, leaving behind a coldness you can't ignore. She has pulled her emotions inward, and now you are left facing the reality of her detachment. Yet behind this withdrawal, there is often pain. It is not easy for a woman to stop caring for someone she once gave everything to. The withdrawal doesn't mean her feelings are gone. It means she's no longer willing to express them. She may still think about you, still remember the moments you shared, still feel the ache of loss, but she keeps it hidden. She teaches herself to respond less, to give less, to show less, until eventually the habit of holding back replaces the habit of giving. Emotional withdrawal is both a shield and a signal. It is her way of telling herself that she must move on, even if part of her still wants to stay. It is the quiet breaking of a bond, the invisible line where she stops fighting for connection. And when you finally realize it, the distance is already too wide to cross because she has decided her emotions no longer belong in your hands. When a woman realizes she has lost you, something unexpected often begins to surface: subtle respect. At first, her emotions may swing between denial, anger, or regret, but underneath those shifting feelings, she starts to notice a quiet admiration for the strength you displayed in letting go. When she sees that you didn't beg, you didn't chase, and you didn't compromise your dignity, she begins to view you differently. The very independence that may have once frustrated her now becomes the reason she acknowledges your worth. Respect doesn't always show through words. It often hides in silence, in the way she replays your actions in her mind. She remembers how you carried yourself even when she pulled away. She recalls the self-control you showed when you could have broken down. It is in those memories that respect grows. She may not admit it directly, but she feels it. And this respect is different from the affection she once offered. It is not born from desire or dependency, but from recognition of your strength. There is a truth many overlook. People often respect what they cannot control. When she realizes she can no longer influence your emotions, when she sees that your value does not diminish just because she stepped away, her perspective shifts. You become someone she cannot dismiss easily. She may have taken your presence for granted when you were available, but now that you are gone, she recognizes the discipline and self-respect you held. It's a quiet realization that lingers with her long after the emotions fade. This subtle respect also shows in the way she speaks about you to others. Even if she no longer claims closeness, there's a difference in her tone when your name comes up. Instead of bitterness, there is often a restrained acknowledgement, as if she knows you are not ordinary. She might not say it directly to you, but those who listen carefully can sense it. Respect has a way of seeping through, even when pride tries to hide it. What makes this shift powerful is that it's not about wanting you back. It's about realizing who you truly were. When someone loses you, they are left with the contrast between how they treated you and how you carried yourself. That contrast teaches lessons. It shows her that while emotions can fade, respect remains. And respect, once rooted, is hard to erase. The truth is, love can be emotional, but respect is rational. She may no longer show affection, but deep inside, she acknowledges that losing you meant losing a person of value. The subtle respect that emerges is her way of honoring that truth, even if it comes too late. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's real, carved quietly into the way she now sees you, not just as someone she once knew, but as someone whose strength left a lasting imprint. Regret and reflection often arrive when the noise of the moment has faded and reality begins to settle in. When a woman knows she has lost you, the rush of emotions that once masked her true feelings gives way to silence, and in that silence, regret takes root. She begins to replay conversations in her mind, the times she dismissed your efforts, the moments she let her pride speak louder than her heart, the situations where she chose distance over closeness. At first, she may try to convince herself that losing you doesn't matter, but the truth reveals itself slowly. She starts to see the weight of what she let slip away. Regret is rarely loud. It is quiet and persistent. It comes in late-night thoughts, in memories triggered by the smallest reminders, in the realization that the consistency you once offered is not easily found again. She remembers how you stood by her during difficult times, how you listened when she needed comfort, how you gave your presence without conditions. These reflections are not just about missing you, they are about recognizing the gap that losing you has left behind. What seemed replaceable at the time now feels irreplaceable in hindsight. The human heart often understands value when it is no longer within reach. That is the cruel design of regret. It doesn't appear when things are comfortable, but only when the comfort is gone. She might look at her current life and compare it with the stability you once gave. She may think of how different things would be if she had appreciated your presence instead of taking it for granted. This reflection can be painful because it forces her to confront her own choices, to admit to herself that the loss wasn't just an accident, but a consequence of what she allowed or ignored. In this stage, she often softens toward the past. The arguments that once seemed so important begin to lose their sharpness, and what remains are the good moments, the laughter, the support, the bond. Regret reshapes memory, highlighting what mattered most and minimizing what didn't. It is in this process of reflection that she begins to see clearly that losing you was not just losing a person, but losing a part of herself that felt safe, valued, and understood. What makes regret so powerful is that it rarely comes with an easy way back. Even if she realizes the depth of her mistake, pride or circumstance often keep her from admitting it openly. Instead, she carries it quietly, letting it sit with her in private moments. She may never tell you how deeply she reflects, but you would notice it in the way her eyes linger, the way her silence feels heavier, the way her energy shifts around you. Regret and reflection are proof that losing you made an impact. They are signs that your presence was meaningful enough to be missed, that your absence created a void that no one else could easily fill. And though she may move on with life, that regret lingers as a reminder of what was once within her reach, but slipped away forever. When a woman realizes she has lost you, there often comes a stage where she makes attempts to reconnect. These attempts are rarely grand or obvious. They are subtle, carefully measured, almost hesitant gestures that reveal her inner conflict. She may not come to you with open confessions, but she will find small ways to re-enter your world, even if it is through the side door. It could be a simple message after weeks of silence, a casual, "How have you been?" that carries far more weight than the words suggest. It might be her liking a photo, replying to an old story, or bringing up a shared memory, as if to test if the bridge between you is still there. These attempts are not about convenience. They come from an unspoken desire to feel your presence again. When she reaches out, she is not just contacting you, she is reaching for the comfort and stability you once gave her. Sometimes it appears as small talk, but underneath there is a question. Do I still matter? She may never say it directly, but her actions whisper it. Each message, each gesture is her way of testing whether she has completely lost access to the part of you she once knew so well. What makes these attempts complex is the pride she carries. She doesn't want to look desperate, so she disguises her efforts as casual interactions. She convinces herself that reaching out isn't about regret, but about friendship or curiosity. Yet, deep inside, she knows that her actions are fueled by something deeper, a longing for what she pushed away. Even the smallest interaction is her way of keeping the door from fully closing. You may notice her bringing up topics that reconnect her to your life, asking about your family, your work, or your plans. She may remind you of things only the two of you shared, anchoring herself in the bond you once had. Sometimes she even tries to provoke a response, perhaps by mentioning other people or showing that she is moving forward, not to hurt you, but to see if you still react. These attempts, whether gentle or indirect, are ways of pulling you back into a conversation, into a space where she can feel close again. But attempts to reconnect are not always about wanting the relationship back in full. Sometimes they are about easing the weight of regret, about finding reassurance that the connection wasn't completely destroyed. She may want to know that you don't hate her, that you still think of her, that she still holds some significance in your heart. For her, even a small response from you can be enough to soothe the silence that has been haunting her. In truth, these moments of reaching out are reflections of her inner battle. One part of her wants to let go with dignity, while another part can't stand the emptiness your absence has created. So she hovers between the two, reaching out, pulling back, then reaching out again. Each attempt is her way of asking without asking, is there still a place for me in your life? Conflicted behavior is one of the strongest signals that a woman knows she has lost you. It is the visible tension between what she feels and what she shows, the constant push and pull that leaves her actions unpredictable. One moment she may act indifferent, as if your absence doesn't affect her at all, and the next she may display sudden anger, sadness, or even an unexpected softness. This inconsistency is not because she doesn't know what she wants, it's because losing you has unsettled her in ways she struggles to control. When a woman is conflicted, her pride tells her to move on, but her emotions keep pulling her back. She may avoid you in public, yet secretly check on your life when no one is watching. She may say she doesn't care, but the tone of her words or the sharpness in her voice reveals otherwise. Her behavior becomes layered, cold on the surface, but vulnerable underneath. This duality is her way of protecting herself while still holding on to what she can't quite release. Sometimes conflicted behavior shows through sudden bursts of emotion. She might bring up old arguments, not because they matter anymore, but because they keep her connected to you in some way. Or she may lash out with anger, disguising her hurt, because expressing pain directly feels too exposing. In another moment, she may soften, reminiscing about old memories, letting down her guard just long enough to reveal that the loss has shaken her. It is this back and forth, this pendulum of emotions that reveals the conflict she cannot hide. This behavior can be confusing to witness, but it makes sense when you look deeper. On one side, she wants to prove to herself that she can live without you, that she has the strength to detach and move on. On the other, she feels the weight of what is missing, the stability, the presence, the connection that once defined so much of her world. The conflict lies in not being able to fully let go, yet not knowing how to come back either. Her actions become unpredictable because she is torn between two versions of herself, the one that wants to appear strong and detached, and the one that quietly aches for what she lost. This inner struggle spills into her behavior. Moments of closeness followed by sudden distance, sharp words followed by silence, coldness followed by subtle attempts at warmth. Each shift reveals that she is unsettled, that her heart and her pride are at war. What makes this conflicted behavior so telling is that it cannot be fully hidden. Even when she tries to mask it with indifference, the cracks show. The frustration, the longing, the regret, they all slip through in her tone, her body language, her small actions. And in those moments, you see the truth. She is not indifferent at all. She is struggling with the reality of losing you, caught between the desire to protect her pride and the need to hold on to a bond that still echoes inside her. Loss has a way of reshaping people in ways comfort never can. When a woman realizes she has lost you, the pain she feels may first show as anger, denial, or regret. But over time, it begins to transform into growth. The very absence that once felt unbearable becomes the space where she learns to stand on her own. Growth through loss is not immediate. It is a process born out of reflection, self-awareness, and the realization that she can no longer lean on what was once hers. At first, she resists. The silence feels heavy. The memories sting, and the temptation to reach back for what she lost lingers. But as time passes, she slowly recognizes that pain can be a teacher. She begins to see the patterns in her behavior, the mistakes she made, and the ways she may have taken your presence for granted. Loss forces her to confront the truth she may have avoided, that relationships are not guaranteed, that people who give deeply should never be dismissed lightly, and that love is fragile when not valued. This confrontation pushes her into self-reflection. She may start questioning why she acted the way she did, why she pulled away, or why she failed to appreciate the stability you provided. In doing so, she develops a clearer understanding of herself. Sometimes loss becomes the mirror she could not face before, a mirror that shows her pride, her impatience, her unspoken fears. And though it is painful, it is also transformative because it reveals not only what she lost, but who she has the potential to become. With time, the raw ache softens, and in its place comes strength. She learns to carry herself differently, to value people more deeply, to communicate with honesty instead of silence. Where she once avoided vulnerability, she may begin to embrace it. Where she once took presence for granted, she now learns gratitude. Growth emerges because she no longer wants to repeat the same mistakes. Losing you becomes the turning point that shifts her perspective on love, respect, and connection. Growth through loss also teaches resilience. She learns that though someone important may no longer stand beside her, life does not end there. She discovers the strength to rebuild, to create new routines, and to redefine her sense of self. This growth doesn't erase the pain of losing you, but it reshapes it into wisdom. The woman who once felt broken now carries lessons she can never unlearn. In truth, loss is a harsh but powerful teacher. It takes something away to give something deeper in return. For her, losing you may have felt like the end, but in time, she realizes it was also a beginning, a chance to grow into someone stronger, wiser, and more aware of the value of what she once held in her hands. And though she may never say it aloud, a part of that growth will always be tied to the lessons your absence gave her. In the end, when a woman knows she has lost you, her journey is marked by a series of silent transformations, attention fading into indifference, emotions retreating into guarded silence, regret taking root, and subtle respect quietly surfacing. She may attempt to reconnect, display conflicted behavior, or withdraw completely, but each stage carries its own unspoken truth. Losing you forces her to see what she once overlooked. It teaches her the value of presence, the weight of absence, and the lessons that only loss can deliver. And while the pain may soften over time, the imprint remains, because losing someone who carried himself with strength and dignity leaves behind not just emptiness, but also growth, reflection, and an undeniable reminder of what it truly means to be valued too late.